Welcome back for your next IE lesson. Today we are going to finish this book that is called Out of Gas. I have 3 chapters to read to you. As you listen today, you're going to think about why the titles of these chapters are good titles. And when we finish up, you're going to go to Canvas and write your answer in the text box. The 3 chapters that I'm going to read to you, one of them is called Mish, one of them is called Zapped, and the last one is called The Idea. So let's start with chapter 8. Chapter 8 is called Mish. Trey looked at the boys. Paws and Neg were shaking. They did not talk. Trey spoke to Keem. But where? He asked. We don't know what Mish is. Kim looked mad. She grabbed the Mish tank. She gave it to Trey. Sniff, she said. What do you smell? Trey took a big sniff. He liked the smell. I smelled cake, he said, and cookies and pie. It smells like our bake shop. That's because Mish is sugar, said Keem. On Earth, Mish is called sugar. Yeets eat sugar. Then yeets make gas. The gas makes our ships go. Trey thought about this. Then he asked something. How do you get so much sugar? He asked. You must use a lot. We buy it, said Keem. The news says people eat too much sugar, but it's not people. You mean it's really the Toozers? Trey asked. Keem smiled at Trey. Fizz winked at Trey. Trey's eyes opened wide. So now you know, said Keem. Then she looked at the boys. Get up, she said. If you hurry, we won't zap you. Go get some sugar now. But Paws and Neg didn't move. They were still shaking. I'll get it, said Trey. I'll go to our bake shop. We have lots of sugar, lots of things we bake with sugar. You have 10 minutes, said Keem. After that, we won't wait. We will zap these 2. Fizz waved the zapper at the boys again. Trey lifted the Mish tank. It was pretty big. It would hold about 20 pounds of sugar. That was a lot, but Trey's parents had a big storeroom. There was lots of sugar in the storeroom. He put the tank down. I'll get your Mish, he told the boys. I'll be back fast. Repair the tank. Paws peeked out. He used a small voice. Be very fast, said Paws. The yeets look very weak. Be very fast, said Neg. I don't want to stay on Earth. Be very fast, said Keem. If you are late, we will zap these 2. They will be in big trouble. Fizz nodded. Trey started running. Max ran close behind. Chapter 9. Zapped. Trey ran fast. Max ran fast. In 4 minutes, they were home. Trey ran inside. He ran through the kitchen. Then he ran into the bake shop. In the storeroom, he saw the sugar. He grabbed 2 10-pound bags. He lifted them. Then he heard a voice. Trey, said the voice. What are you doing? Trey's mom was standing in the doorway. She looked at Trey. She looked at the 2 bags. She put her hands on her hips. Max stopped wagging his tail. Oh no, thought Trey. What should he say? His mom wouldn't believe the real story. Trey thought hard. He needed an idea. Why did he always need ideas? Wait, he had it. He had the best idea. I need this sugar, Trey told his mom. I need this sugar for school. Trey's mom looked at him. You have an idea for the science fair? She asked. Yes, said Trey. But I will tell you later. Right now I need to run, please. Trey's mom put her arms down. She smiled at Trey. Okay, she said. Tell me at dinner. Trey grinned at his mom. Max wagged his tail. Then they left. Trey had to get to the ship. He wanted to be in time. But the bags were big. 20 pounds was a lot of sugar. He couldn't run. He had to walk. He tried to walk fast. Would he be in time? Would the yeets be okay? Would Fizz, Zap, Paws, and Neg? Trey walked fast through the woods. The big bags bumped his legs. Some of the sugar spilled. Max liked that. He licked up the sugar. As Trey walked, he began to think. Did he have a science idea? Could he test sugar? He thought and thought. He walked slower and slower, then he grinned. He had a great idea. He would tell his mom at dinner. His parents would be happy. Trey began to walk fast again. At last, Trey and Max got to the ship. Trey saw Keem and Fizz. The girls looked mad. He saw Paws and Neg. The boys looked sad. They were sitting on the ground. They were looking at their hands. They had large yellow Z's on their palm. Neg looked at Trey. "You're too late," he said. "The Yeats are dead." Chapter 10. The Idea. "What?" said Trey. He looked at Paws. Paws looked sad. "Maybe they are," said Paws. Trey looked at Keem and Fizz. The girls shook their heads. Trey hoped the Toozers were wrong. He looked in the bin. He looked at the Yeats. They were very still. But Trey had to do something. He didn't want to give up. Not on the Yeats. Not on Paws and Neg. "I have an idea," said Trey. He opened a bag of sugar. He put some on the Yeats. Nothing happened. Trey moved the bin into the sun. He looked at the Yeats. They were so tiny. They were so still. Trey held his breath. Something moved. The Yeats were moving. "Look," said Trey. "Look at the Yeats." Max came. He sniffed the Yeats. He sneezed. The Yeats blew around. Then they moved. They went back into a pile. "I knew it," said Trey. "The Yeats are alive. They needed some warmth." The Toozers came to look. Trey kept the bin in the sun. Soon all the Yeats were moving. "Will they be okay now?" asked Trey. Paws nodded. He put the Yeats bin in the ship. Neg put all the flour in the meesh tank. The tank was fixed. "The Yeats are eating," said Paws. "They are making gas." Paws had a big grin. "We won't have to stay on Earth," said Neg. He had a big grin, too. "Good," said Keem. "You can go back." Then Paws looked sad. "We can't go back," he said. "We got zapped." He held up his hands. Trey saw the yellow marks. "Wash them off," said Trey. Paws and Neg hung their heads. "Can't," said Paws. "They won't come off," said Neg. Trey looked at Keem. "Can you help?" he asked. "They didn't mean to land here." "But you know our secret," said Keem. "This is a bad thing." Trey looked at Neg and Paws. They looked so sad. He looked at Keem. "Can I promise?" asked Trey. "Can I promise I will never tell? Your secret will be safe?" Keem looked at Fizz. Fizz nodded. Keem looked at the boys. She sighed. "Okay," she said. Fizz lifted the zapper. She pushed a button. There was a flash. The boys looked at their hands. The zaps were gone. The boys jumped up. They shimmered. They stretched. They changed back into blobs. "Thank you," said Trey to the girls. Then the blobs got in the ship. They slid the door shut. Trey watched the ship take off. It was fast. Then it was gone. Trey turned to the girls, but they were gone. Only Max was there, and Max was busy. He was licking sugar off the empty bags. It was 2 weeks later. It was the science fair. Trey was there. Little kids were there. Trey was showing them his work. "Here is my test," said Trey. "I will show you what I did." Trey had a bottle. He had some warm water. He put the water in the bottle. He added some sugar. Then he got a new thing. "What is that?" asked one kid. "This is yeast," said Trey. "It looks like sand," said the kid. Trey nodded. "Yes," he said, "but yeast is alive." Trey put some yeast in the bottle. Then he got a balloon. He put the balloon on the top of the bottle. "Now watch the water," Trey said. "Soon you will see bubbles. The bubbles will be in the water." "Why?" asked a kid. "The yeast is making gas," said Trey. "Now watch the balloon." They waited. Then the balloon started to get big. It filled with gas. "My parents have a bake shop," said Trey. "We use yeast a lot. It makes bread rise. Without yeast, bread would be flat. Yeast is tiny, but yeast is strong." "What else can yeast do?" asked a kid. "I don't know," said Trey, "but I want to learn about yeast. I want to make it stronger. Strong yeast will make lots of gas. This gas could make things go." "Cool," said a kid. "Yes," said Trey. "One day I want to have very strong yeast. I will use it to make spaceships go." "You can't do that," said a kid. Then Trey saw two girls. They were at the back. They were twins. The two girls nodded and winked at Trey. Yes, I can, said Trey. He grinned. And so there's the end of the story, Out of Gas. I hope you enjoyed the book. I want you to go over to Canvas and write down why Mish, Zapped, and The Idea were good titles of chapters.